Andrew Rumsey, and this is from my talk on nostalgia called The Last Bus Home from this year's Greenbelt Festival. A little while back, I bent my joyful footsteps to Brixton Bus Garage for the farewell of London's famed hop-on, hop-off double-decker bus, the Routemaster. Brixton was the terminus for Route 159, the last to run these mythical beasts, and there gathered an odd congregation of enthusiasts, press, and confused passengers, together with those who, like myself, seem perversely drawn to such swan songs. Flasks of coffee were shared, mummified sandwiches unpeeled, and each bus that pulled up would be duly applauded and photographed, the driver beaming in his moment of celebrity. Every so often, a bystander would approach the growling bonnet and pat it fondly, as they might a golden retriever. As the last Routemaster rattled into the depot and the crowd began to disperse, I paused to overhear one mourner glumly say to his friend, "Well, that's it for London now." This doom-laden insecurity about the future is precisely what many people loathe about nostalgic types, the stifling sense that nothing will match up to an irretrievable and imagined past. There's no way forward, only back, except that you can't really go back either. Great. And yet nostalgia, which we might define as history after a few drinks, is increasingly a feature of our age. It's literally the longing to return home. And it was coined as a phrase by a Swiss doctor in the 17th century, seeking a name for the epidemics of homesickness afflicting soldiers fighting abroad. By the late 20th century, however, it had mutated into a kind of mass therapy, a comforting refuge from the present, with an entire industry dedicated to feeding our appetite for yesteryear. Instead of curing the nostalgic with leeches or opium, we now treat him to a magazine series that builds up in weekly parts and throws in a free binder. Nostalgia is a result of the giddy pace of change in Western society. Svetlana Boym, in her book The Future of Nostalgia, says that it's the mourning for the impossibility of a mythical return, for the loss of an enchanted world, a spiritual longing for an absolute home. If we were again to view outbreaks of nostalgia as a sickness, a kind of cultural senility, we might have genuine cause for alarm at the way in which, like dotty old dears, we have wandered away from home without remembering where we lived. An informed recovery of the Christian doctrine of the Holy Spirit might be helpful here. St. Paul describes the Holy Spirit as the foretaste of our future, the one who makes real to us both the past and the future in the present. It's quite a slippery business to explain, of course, like most things that really matter. Much better to drink it in at a celebration of communion, which is the Church's patent cure for amnesia. It's all about anamnesis, anamnesia, which is the Bible's word for memory. At the Last Supper, Jesus uses it when he says, "Do this in remembrance of me." More than mere recollection, anamnesis is a kind of hopeful commemoration which looks ahead as confidently as it thinks back. This service is where the longing for home is finally addressed, where in the threefold acclamation, Christ has died, Christ is risen, Christ will come again, faith is restored in the passage of time, and where the PA system never works. In his endearing way, my late father used to call me Auntie Nostalgia, no doubt because of my ability to sigh wistfully before I could talk. In the year I was born, there was still just steam traction on British railways, Lyons corner houses, and red Morris Minor GPO vans. Thereafter, such things became inherently more interesting to me for just having ceased to be, which is precisely the nostalgic's problem. The very lostness, the out-of-reachness of the past increases your hunger for it. Nostalgia thus feeds on being insatiable. It's a growing business. Nostalgics aren't a dying breed in Britain today, even though they'd rather like to be. But nostalgia is a telltale symptom of a deeper appetite, And perhaps the truth is that each of us need memories with a future, memories which lamp up the road ahead and lead us home, memories which ultimately can reckon with death. I'm afraid it's that or the bus.